You're listening to Spotlight on Locum Tenens on ReachMD in partnership with locumstory.com.
Although the 5 to 7 year itch is commonly associated with marriage, it's also something that can be experienced throughout the course of our careers. And for one physician assistant, her recurring 5-year itches unfortunately led to burnout and a string of unfulfilling permanent positions. Until, that is, she finally found peace and purpose as a locum tenens. Welcome to Spotlight on Locum Tenens on ReachMD. I'm your host, Dr. Jennifer Caudle, and joining me to share her story is Theresa Rand. Welcome to the program, Terry.
Thanks, Dr. Caudle. I'm happy to be here.
So, to start us off, Terry, can you share a little bit about your journey as a physician assistant throughout your career and what made you initially turn to locum tenens work?
Well, I've been a physician assistant for about 29 years, and 27 of those years have been in cardiothoracic vascular surgery, which included ICU care, office, all of it. And as you can imagine, that can get to be very hectic, as can many practices. And I would find myself just working myself to the bone and not doing anything else, and to the point where I need something slower. I need something in a different place. I would find some excuse that it would just be, I need a change. I need a change, like that was going to change it. But the truth is that it's all on me, because myself, like many other medical professionals, we throw ourselves into it and kind of forget about the rest of our lives. And I kept thinking changing locations will do that. And I had talked to nurses who traveled. I hadn't really talked to any locum PAs or physicians at that time. But to me, the locum world was it felt to be very like an unstable situation where, what if I didn't have a job, or what if there wasn't somebody looking? What would I do then? And then in about 2015, I was working night shift in an ICU, 12-hour shifts. And we were short, so I decided to start working. I would pick up those shifts because it needed to be done. It wasn't for the money or anything else. It was because it needed to be done. And then a very good friend of mine, who was a couple of years older than myself, died unexpectedly of an aortic dissection. And it hit me very hard. And I was like, no, I was so exhausted from 5 out of 7 days a week working. I was just like, I am done. I need something different. And about that time, Chantel Mitten, who had called me a couple of times, and I was like, no, I'm not interested. She's the recruiter from Comp Health that reached out to me about the same time, and I was like, okay, well, let me think about this. And so I got to thinking, this would be a way for me to get out, travel a little more, maybe have a life, because, if you're in a job, there's, you get this many weeks vacation, you get this much time off or whatever, where this would be more in my control. And so that's kind of what started my locum tenens. And I've been doing it pretty much ever since, except for a short period of time where I thought I had found the dream job. And that lasted about 8 months. And I just went, no, I can't. No, I'm going to go back to doing locums. And I don't want to be caught in anybody's world, and I want to just do what I want to do and do my job to the best of my ability and continue on. And pretty much at this point, I plan to continue this until I retire in about 8 to 10 years.
Thanks for sharing that with us, Terry. And for many of us, I think the transition to locum tenens could seem daunting. So did you share this thinking of what if?
Well, actually, yes, I did. It was more, what if there's not a position available? What if they don't like me? What if they cancel the contract? What if? But the truth of the matter is even if you have a permanent position someplace, it doesn't make it that you're not going to be fired or downsized or let go for some reason. That's just the way of the world. And as it was with my last permanent position, that whole program has pretty much imploded now. So it wasn't a guarantee to start with. There is no guarantees. And, like I said, when my friend died, and this kind of started my head down that path of, what if there isn't? You have to prepare. Don't get me wrong. I still worry about that. What happens if I can't find a position or this or that? It's still, there is no givens in the world, and you might as well try to enjoy as much as you can of it.
And since you've experienced both permanent and temporary positions through locum tenens work in your career, what are some of the biggest differences between the two? Working in a practice, for instance, you sort of become accustomed to a routine in a sense, but is there a quote-unquote normal work schedule for a locum tenens?
I think with cardiac surgery, there's never been it's not 8 to 5, as you can imagine. Most places, a lot of jobs aren't 8 to 5. And this situation in my life has never been 8 to 5 and never what I would say as being any kind of schedule. My day can end at 2 in the afternoon. It could end at 2 in the morning. It all kind of depends on the flow of things. You try to plan. The differences that I see with locums is if you're in a situation that is good, then great. You have this time, and sometimes if they like you and you like it, you're able to extend your contract. If it is not a good situation, one way or the other, it's for a finite period of time. And you don't lose anything by leaving. There's no bad blood. It just is. That's the way you're under a contract. In a permanent position, yes, you're under a contract, and they, depending on the contract, they have different specifics with it. But you also get bound up in all the politics of the place of that. And I don't really even get myself all involved in all of that. I don't get myself involved in all the, discussions and that are involved because my contracts usually run anywhere from 4 to 6 months. For the most part, I do 6-month contracts. So I'm in a place for quite a period of time, and I get used to it, and they get used to me. And if it's good, if the opportunity is there to extend, I can. If I don't want to, I don't have to. And there's no bad blood. It's not like, if somebody looks at my resume, they probably would say, boy, you change jobs a lot, but that's not really true. I've worked with one company for 5 years. It's just in multiple different places. So, and my sister, I laughed when she came up with this. She goes, "You're like Mary Poppins. You come in, you save the day, and you leave." And so, I just thought that was kind of funny. So, but I think the biggest difference is you're not held to a hospital's regiment. I'm held to my personal regiment and my personal beliefs. And yes, I have to go with what the hospital wants, but I don't get involved with all the politics of the hospital and all the other stuff that goes on. I'm not involved with any of that.
Now, what about locum tenens assignments for advanced practitioners like yourself versus those who are physicians? Are there any differences there as well?
Not really. I thought about this question, and I've worked with locum physicians in multiple places where I've been, and it seems to be about the same. We have the same kind of contract responsibilities and that, and they come in for, whatever period of time. And so it seems about the same. I've only talked to them. I haven't talked specifics about what's in your contract. I don't know what kind of money they make. I don't know whatever. That's all worked out between them and the company that they work for. It's not, I don't know, but it seems like it's kind of the same thing. I will say I've not worked with any nurse practitioners that are locums. I've just never come across any. I know I'm sure there are, but I just haven't. And the schedules, everybody's schedule is different. I do 6 months. People will say, "Oh, that's a long time." Well, you don't have to. There's people that do weekends. There's people that do just a week a month, someplace that goes in and helps out, or they go in and for a period of time that somebody's off on maternity leave, or somebody's had one of their physician assistants or physicians has had surgery and needs to be out for a period. They fill that gap.
For those of you who are just joining us, you're listening to Spotlight on Locum Tenens on ReachMD. I'm your host, Dr. Jennifer Caudle, and today I'm speaking with Theresa Rand about her career shift to locum tenens. So getting back to your career as a physician assistant, Terry, it sounds very adventurous since traveling is obviously a big part of your life as a full-time locums. So how has that constant travel affected your work-life balance?
Well, I'll be honest, Dr. Caudle, I never was very good at work-life balance, and that's a lot of the reason that I went locum is so that I would be forced, or at least be able to try to force myself to find that work-life balance. And by doing that, it's been so I can take, I'm not held to, you can only have this amount of time off. If I wanted to take 6 months off, I could. I just have to be financially prepared to do that, and I have to plan for that. But I can take a week here, a week there, and it's part of my contract. Or I can take a month off between contracts, and I don't lose anything. So, but in the travel part, I get to go places I've never been. I'm currently in the Pacific Northwest. I've never been up here before. I've never really been to the West Coast, and so I get to find all kinds of different things to do and to see, and parts of the country that I probably wouldn't think about going. So that's how I try to find my work-life balances. And I'm getting better. I find little things like I'm getting better at shutting the phone off when I leave work or shutting my pager off. I try to help out as much as I can, but I don't go out of my way to overwork myself to help somebody else.
Now, you had also mentioned earlier that before Locum Tenens, you were experiencing burnout, which has become a big point of concern in the healthcare space. So based on your own experience, do you think Locum Tenens helped? And could it potentially help others in advanced practice who are at high risk for burnout?
I would have to say that part of my burnout situation is my own doing. And I'm fully aware of that. But also, with going locums, as I was saying, is to me was to force myself to try to take a break. And it also gets me out so I can, interact with other people. I'm very much an introvert. I'm not a very outgoing person. So this has forced me to do that because you can't just walk into a place and not be part of it. And so it's forced me really to kind of change my attitude. And when it comes to the burnout point, I'm like, okay, I'm done. It's like I get done with a 6-month contract, and if it maybe wasn't the best place for me or something like that, it's like, okay, that's over. I get to take a break for a month. I'm someplace I've never been. Let's take a weekend off. Let's take a weekend and go to the coast or a weekend and go to the mountains. And so I have that opportunity to be able to do that.
And finally, Terry, are there any other thoughts or takeaways you'd like to share with our audience?
Well, I was thinking about this, and I thought, well, it's a very personal decision to make. But I think that in the world today, that we have to be able to try to reach out to life and try to grab life for what it's worth. As I said, with my friend that died, it was very unexpected, and she was young. She was in her early 50s, and she had 2 young children still. And so she never got to experience a lot of different things in life. And I think that this is a way to go. Plus, then you don't get caught in a lot of the bureaucracy and stuff, of being in one certain place. But again, it's a very personal decision and one that has to be well thought out. Are you ready to do such a thing? Because people will ask me where I'm from, and I don't own a home any longer. I basically say I'm homeless. I have an address, but I don't have a home. I have a home base, but it's not my home. It's just an address for me. So, and it all depends what you want to do. You can do that and why you want to do it. And you have to do what's best for you.
Well, with those final takeaways in mind, I'd really like to thank Terry Rand for joining me to share her experience and to offer some insights into the benefits of Locum Tenens work for advanced practitioners. Terry, it was great speaking with you today.
Thank you, Dr. Caudle, and you enjoy your day.
I'm your host, Dr. Jennifer Caudle, and to access this episode and others in the series, please visit reachmd.com/locum tenens. Thank you for listening.
You've been listening to Spotlight on Locum Tenens. To download this program or others from the series, please visit reachmd.com/locum tenens. This series is produced in partnership with locumstory.com. Thank you for listening.
A lot of physicians have questions about locum tenens, and locumstory.com is the place for them to get real, unbiased answers to those questions. Basic questions like, what is locum tenens? To more complex questions about pay ranges, taxes, various specialties, and how locum tenens works for PAs and NPs. And then there's the big question, is it right for you? Go to locumstory.com and get get the answers.